Hey, everybody. My name is D.Lisa. I am a dream doula.
Hi, I'm Christina Spataro. I'm a psychotherapist and relationship coach.
And today we're going to talk to you about New Year's resolutions.
Ooh, I like it.
Now, I remember the first time I ever heard about New Year's resolutions, and I was a little
Mhm.
kid. I was like, I don't remember what my resolution was. Maybe to eat less chocolate, more chocolate, um, read more books about Harriet the Spy. I mean,
Oh my
what
gosh, yeah.
what would you have as a kid? But as adults, we're constantly living in this world that thinks some of us are really co-creating life, living in a
hmm
lucid
hmm
living reality and knowing that we can have affirmations and we can have goals and we can
hmm
get what we love in life. And others are just being pushed and pulled by life itself, thinking that life is happening to them. And wherever you are, you can make a New Year's resolution or you can make a commitment to change something in your life, and it can work if you believe it
hmm
will work. That's
True.
basically the bottom line. So, how do you help people with resolutions? I'll let you talk about it first, Christina.
Okay, well, how to deal with resolutions, the idea that I always go back to any time you're setting a goal, anytime you're setting a resolution, because really, what is a resolution? You're saying, this is my intention for the new year. Okay, so that's great. But when you have your intention, you need to be specific. So we're going to go back to the idea of SMART goals. And I know everybody here probably have heard the term, not heard the term. Before it became popular in the lexicon, therapists, coaches, we were already using it because it's the idea it needs to be specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be appropriate, it needs to be realistic, and it needs to be time sensitive. So all the elements, those are SMART. If you don't have a specific idea in mind, yeah, not going to happen. If you can't have a way to measure whether or not you're getting what you say you want, yeah, not going to happen. If it's not appropriate, not going to happen. If it's not realistic, yeah, not going to happen. If you don't actually have a time frame for when it's going to, like you want it to be, yeah, not going to happen. Because you need all those elements in place. And you're thinking, wow, you're being too harsh. What do you mean it's not going to happen? Think about it. And what I tell my clients is, unless you have a specific idea in mind, it's a lovely dream. And dreams are wonderful. As our dream doula will tell you, dreams are fabulous. But to turn our dreams into actual things that we can see, we can feel, we can hear, we can taste, we need to have that specificity. And the believing actually is encouraged when you can actually see the path of how to get
Ooh, I take people further in my work. I take people into this dream that they would love to have that they really don't see how they could do it,
there.
that they need help from a higher power to do it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that they, but it will bring them more life. It will
Right.
make them grow. It
Mm-hmm.
will have a good in it for others.
Mm-hmm.
And they need help from a higher power to make it happen. And so the appropriate might be thrown out of my formula.
Mm-hmm.
Specific? Yes, very specific. You want to see it, you want to feel it, you want to taste it, you want to be so in that dream that you think it's really here, even though it's not yet. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're really doing that thing or being that person who's doing that thing. You practice, like if you, for example, let's say you want a new car, you go drive that new car.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the new car everywhere and think,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my car is going to be this color.
Mm-hmm.
And you get into the feeling tone of having that car or having that business or having that love in
Right.
your life. But the other part of it is this: what are you going to let go of?
Mm.
Because this is a time of year where I know that more than 80% of people who make New Year's resolutions drop them in the first 3 weeks of
Mm-hmm.
making them.
Right.
So, um, a more appropriate way to do it, in my mind, is first you ponder
Mm-hmm.
what's in life that's not serving you anymore that you can let go of.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's a habit, maybe it's friends, maybe it's a
Mm-hmm.
job, maybe it's where you
Mm-hmm.
live. You know what you don't
Mm-hmm.
love about your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so consider letting those things go and making
Right.
room, because nature abhors a vacuum. So you take things
Yes.
out and other things will come to you. And then the other half of that question is, what would I love to have happen this
Mm-hmm.
next year?
Mm-hmm.
2024 is the year we're talking about when we record this, but you
That's
could
true.
use this any year. If you're
Yes.
watching this in the future, any year that you want to make intentions for, it's a good time of year to do it, right at the end of the years, around winter
Mm-hmm.
solstice, powerful time on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
And so
love.
when people are in your practice and they
Mm-hmm.
have a goal or a dream that you're
Mm-hmm.
helping them with, what's the biggest thing that stops them?
They don't see the path of how to do it.
Hmm.
So I want to correct when I say appropriate, it's like the idea that, like, for instance, if somebody tells me they are 80 years old and want to become an astronaut, okay,
Okay. Maybe,
let's,
maybe, maybe they can go on one trip, but probably
yeah,
not live on the space station for a year.
right. So that's what I mean by that. But I'm a
Hmm.
firm believer that difficult is not impossible.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
I'm a firm believer in that. Just because something is a challenge does not mean you can't make it happen. But the key is that you actually have a path forward for it. So I help them find the path forward, because
Hmm.
the biggest obstacle, I love what you said about letting go of things that aren't serving you anymore. Because a lot of times we're afraid to change, we're afraid of letting go of these things, even though they're not serving us. There's a comfort element, and
Yeah.
we're afraid of letting it go.
I
So,
was pondering that. I was pondering that about specific people that I know that are distinctly unhappy.
mhm,
And from my point of view, I'm like, well, just quit that job you hate,
mhm,
or stop doing this thing you don't want to do.
right,
Easy for me to say, I'm not living their life. You know,
right,
what is the lesson they're learning while they're not quitting the job or
mhm,
not doing the thing that doesn't make them happy anymore?
right,
It's maybe they're learning boundaries, or maybe they're learning how to
mhm,
say no. Maybe they're
right,
waiting for a really painful moment to say yes to themselves.
mhm,
We don't
exactly,
we don't ever know, really.
exactly. I think the big thing holding back, honestly, is the fear. I will go back to this so many times, because fear is a primal emotion. Our
Mm-hmm.
brain is our protection in this world. And if we are afraid of something, our brain is going to shut it down, because we're like, yeah, yeah, no, danger, danger. And it can't quite distinguish between real danger and our perceived one. So if it thinks this is a danger for us, it will discourage us. So
Right.
if we actually leave the space for it, and we leave the space to let go of the fear, people hold on to things because it's familiar. Going into that, like, a lot of clients I have who want to change careers or change location or change relationships, they might be unhappy, but it's familiar. So it's like what you know. It's, you know where the landmines are. So they're like, well, if I
Mm.
start this new thing, I don't know the pitfalls. What if it turns out worse? What if my thing is worse? So I'm like, you won't know until you try. And right now you're miserable.
What if it's better?
What if it's better?
What if it's so
Exactly.
amazing you can't even imagine it right now?
Right. Leave, because but we're so used to thinking of things in the negative term that we
Hmm.
think of, well, what if it just turns bad? I think, what if it turns great? What if you end up loving the new job, the new location, or maybe you find a healthier relationship where you feel more valued? You can have that, but it's like they almost becomes like this self-fulfilling prophecy, where if you think you can't, then you won't. But my job is to help you realize, if you can visualize it and you can put steps in place to work towards it, you can make it happen. Difficult is not impossible.
I was thinking about my own self while I was taking a walk earlier today. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, here I am. I'm living in Ojai, California. It's 65 degrees today and it's sunny and it's in almost the middle of December.
Nice.
And
Did you freeze? Uh-oh.
I thought, hang around and see. I didn't freeze. You might have. No, you're frozen. I'm not frozen.
Okay, one
I'm
of us
still talking.
froze.
So how did I? Okay, so how did I know then
Mhm.
that I would be here now? I did not. In fact, 2 years ago, I was terrified. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't know where I was going to live. I just knew I didn't love living in Seattle anymore.
Mhm.
But I also had a dream that I could be a life coach. And I was living in a small town with a nice climate and
Mm.
groovy people. And I was a life coach and an artist, and life was fine. And so I
Right.
would put on that imaginary persona, and I would
Mm.
walk through the rainy streets of Seattle.
Mhm.
And my mind was saying, it's so effing cold. I hate this weather, hate this weather. It's so dark and cold. And then I would say, whoa, change those thoughts. I'm a life coach visiting this cool climate to cool off. The fresh
Mm.
breeze in my face feels so delightful and wet. And
Mhm.
everything's great. Everything's like, this is what it looks like when everything's working
Right.
out. And now here I am. Everything's worked out. Could I have imagined it in the way it seems right now in my reality? No. I had no
Mm.
concept for how great it could be or
Mhm.
how lovely it could be to really live in
Mhm.
a small town with a nice climate
Mhm.
and do what my soul is calling me to do.
Right.
So if anyone's listening and doubting themselves, you can have a big dream. And what if it works out? What if it
Yeah.
all works out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. What if it all works out?
Most people use those what if questions for a negative point of
Right.
view.
But
What if
imagine
this
if you
bad
use
thing happens? What if this
right.
really bad thing happens? What if I die? You know?
Right. But
Uh, and there was a counselor who told one of my sisters once, you've had a lot of things happen to you in your life, and
mhm.
most of them didn't happen except in your mind. So
Mhm.
stop using your mind to terrify yourself.
Mm. I love that. Stop using your mind to terrify yourself.
Well, that's how most people use their thoughts.
That's true.
This
That's
scary
true.
thought, this scary thought, this scary thought, another
Yes.
scary thought. No wonder people are stressed out and anxious.
Yeah, no wonder because again, at our primal level, we're fear-based creatures. Where our thing is to avoid bad thing happening. But
Right.
imagine if we programmed ourselves to embrace the good things that will happen instead
Yeah,
of the
imagine
focus.
that.
Yes, instead of the focus being how do I avoid this calamity? How do I pursue this treasure?
Right. And if you do have a dream and you don't know what to do next, because that your brain is like, what's next? What's next? What's next? You can ask yourself, what's one thing I can do
Yeah.
from right where I am with what I have right now? What can I do to move toward this goal or dream? And you will always have a little nugget of something. You could call someone, or you could do something, or you could
Hmm.
take a course, or you could order the business cards, or you could start your business, whatever your dream is.
Right.
You can take a tiny step, because a tiny step will take you up a
Hmm.
mountain, one step at a time.
Yes.
Mm.
I love
So New
that.
Year's resolutions. Oh my gosh. How many do people make? 10, 20, 3? What's your experience?
I think a lot of times people make New Year's resolutions, but they don't make them with the full intention of following through.
Oh, right. It's just like, I made a New Year's resolution and ha ha
Right.
ha, that's never going to happen.
Right. So that's the whole idea. This is where I get
Hmm.
to. It has to be something that you're leaving space for because the other thing is the universe will bring it to you, but you
Hmm.
have to actually want it. Are you, do you want it and are you ready for
I love that so much. My friend here in town, Reverend Marilyn, says, if you ask the universe, or she uses the word God, of course, she's a
it?
reverend. If you ask God, the answer's always yes.
Right.
It's either yes, not yet, or here's something even better.
Something better. Yep.
So the answer's our negative brain thinking tells us the answer is going to be no, that we're going to
Mhm.
fail, that we're going to embarrass
Right.
ourselves, that, you know, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if everything's terrible? What if people hate
Right.
me? Whatever you're making up in your head, maybe none of
Right.
that. Maybe none of that's going to happen
Maybe none of that.
because you can have what you love.
Yes,
That's really, really how the universe works.
exactly. You can totally have what you love, but you have to believe you can actually have it.
You know, I talked to somebody yesterday who is, he does sound healing by playing
Hmm.
wooden and bamboo flutes.
Hmm.
And we got to this part of the conversation where we decided that if you believed you could co-create your life and that you
Hmm.
could dance with this thing called life and you could have goals and dreams and they would work out or something better, that
Hmm.
you would be lucidly living.
I like
Lucid
that.
living.
Lucidly living.
So yeah, everybody pretty much knows what a lucid dream is. You know you're in the dream.
Right.
So what if you knew you were in this dream that we call life and that you could play with it as an active participant? Because that's what goal setting or
Mhm.
resolution making or any of that is all about, is that can you make something happen because you dreamed it up? Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I love that. You
So,
absolutely.
Christina, I'm going to ask you to share something personal if you want to, or you don't have
Okay.
to. So, if you did let something go or take something on or have a New Year's resolution on those lines, what would you love for next year to come
What
into
would
your
I
life?
love for next year? Oh, I wished I thought closer about this. What would I love for next year? I think one of the things, like, I think I've already sort of started on that path a little bit because before, when I first started, I was being very traditional in my approach. And then I decided to be a little more adventurous and pursue things that I love and combine things. So when I did the therapy through movies, that was the way to combine like my love of movies and stuff. So I think my New Year's resolution would be to do more of the same. Like I also want to explore more the spiritual component in psychology. I will do that with my clients, but I'm maybe doing more of that, like kind of taking it to a different level because people have an idea of what it is. They have a assumption of what it is, maybe based on movies, based on this. But my approach is very eclectic. I use movies, I use spirituality, I use all these elements to help people find their true path. So probably my resolution is to lean more into that
I love that.
because yeah, lean more into that because I think probably in my own way I've been a little afraid too because when you lean a little away from traditional and you go more into the other areas, you might lose some people because they might be like, "Oh, I know." So there is
Yeah.
a risk, but I also want to be true to where my soul is telling me to go.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. You got to do it first. Then you can pull your people along.
Yes.
And at the risk of losing some people, well, they're not your people.
They're not my tribe. Yep.
Yeah. You said something that I'm curious about though. You use movies,
Mhm.
therapy through movies.
Yes.
And do you actually tell your clients?
I do actually tell my clients, and I don't know if it's me or you, but one of us wet froze.
It's
Do I
just
actually?
you, honey.
It's just
Nothing's
me.
frozen
I'm
here.
freezing. Oh, that's not
Although,
good.
wait, I did just get a message that said my internet is unstable, so maybe it's me, but
So I think
I
I'm.
don't see anything freezing. We'll see what happens
Yeah.
when we
No,
play the
when you get
recording.
that message, you're unstable. Yeah, it means you froze a couple times, but it's okay.
I'm not unstable. The
No,
internet's
you're not.
unstable.
It's the internet, and I've gotten that too. Steph, trust me, I know. So
Mm,
you were
mm.
saying when I use movies, and then I
Yeah,
lost you for a second.
do you give them homework? So go watch the movie and we'll talk about it next week.
I'm very like I paint the scene for them
Hmm.
and then I will sometimes forward them like a clip or I'll tell them to watch this thing. I also see like where it is for them. because sometimes it might even be a line that I love, that this
Right.
line from this movie that I want them to get. Like as I was trying to think as we were doing our conversation, what movie could I pick from this? So I'm thinking of, if you've ever seen the movie French Kiss with Meg Ryan, Kevin
Mm.
Kline, and
Love that movie.
Timothy
Yeah.
Hutton. So the Meg Ryan character, and I may have mentioned this before because there's a lot of little nuggets you can pull out of it. So her character is one that's very buttoned up, very much living in fear. And then through this whole craziness with her fiance falling in love with, a girl he meets when he's on a trip to France, it forces her out of her comfort zone to go to France, to pursue what she thought she wanted, and then in this journey she realizes something else she wants altogether. And there's a line she says to him I love, when, and I'm doing a spoiler, where she's actually talking to the ex-fiance and she's saying to him, I realized that the idea is no home is ever safe enough, no relationship is ever secure enough. Sometimes we're pursuing security so we won't get hurt, but no relationship is secure enough. No home is ever safe enough. It's about pursuing your passion, your bliss, listening to that voice inside of you that is taking you where you're meant to be.
That's so beautiful. Yeah, the people who really crave security have a hard time living, because the only constant is change.
Yes.
And that's a difficult dance. If you want security, you want things to remain the same predictable way and keep going
Yeah.
the way that you think they should go. And that is not how the world works. It's always, and to think of how the universe works, that's always expanding itself. The universe is always expanding. Things are always growing here on the planet. There's the life cycle of growing and resting and growing and resting and growing and resting. So that's kind of what relationships do. That's what careers do. That's what our life does. If we allow it to take us somewhere beautiful, it's a fun ride.
It's a really fun ride. And you got to embrace it.
Yeah. So, dear listeners, I hope you got something great about how to put some resolutions or goals and dreams together.
Yes.
And thanks for listening and sharing this podcast with others. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you, dear listeners. Tune in again.
See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.